review as opposed to one. Oh,
What's up to our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation?
I'm sorry, you were saying something? Let me just hit
Yeah.
that button.
Yeah, you can tell JD doesn't give a shit what you're saying because he started going live mid-sentence. Oh, I love all of you guys.
Conversation over.
Johnny I'm your host, Johnny Destructo. With me this week is Noel.
Hi.
And Len. And Brian.
Hey.
And my iPad. We are here to talk about this week's books. But first, oh no, we have letter.
We have a letter.
The letter. My iPhone is being used to show you the iPad.
How can we pull up the letter? I don't have the letter.
You do.
I do?
At blacktribbles@gmail.com.
Then give me a moment if you had prepped before and cared to tell me.
I tried, except we're already 12 minutes late.
All right, hold on.
I'm going. coldpopgo@gmail.com. Let's see who gets there quicker. This is great viewing for the people at home. Len or Noel, say something to the people.
Hey, people.
Hey, what's up?
You're doing great.
This week, Stargirl continues to be awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. Really, really fun. And it's a good mix of new, like, update stuff, like classic Jeff Johns JSA style, and, which always means that they reference classic JSA as well. I'm really looking forward to where it goes. They've got a lot of little teasers in there that I know about, and I'm sure you guys would know about, but might not be so obvious to people that don't know the source material. So I recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Len, these are for Gutter Talk, but since we're mushing the shows together, should we just read them?
Yeah, I have one from the Home Dad Abroad.
And I have one from
Hey, Home Dad.
What's his nuts? 2814.
Oh, can I really, you know what? I didn't think to say this when I actually had the chance to say it. Carl's messaged me asking how I liked the Phantom, and I have to admit, it fell to the bottom of my stack and I haven't read it yet. So I swear to God, I will read the badass issues of the Phantom that he sent for us from Australia. Have you read them?
Nope.
Yeah,
I read a few of the older ones that he sent.
Yeah, I completely like. I was going through stuff yesterday to get all my books ready for today, and I was just like, "Shit, I need to read these." Yeah, so sorry. I'm sorry.
I did read Brown Fury.
Was it Furious?
It was.
Was it brown?
It was pretty brown.
Cool.
We will talk about that when someone else reads it. So we have a letter. This is from. It doesn't say. It just says it's from Sellington 2814. So I'm assuming that's the Green Lantern Dribble.
Yes, it is. That's how.
It's called Last Shop Standing. Hey guys, it's your boy Charles in Chattanooga again. Recently, I heard y'all talk about what type of comic book shop would survive after this pandemic, and I have an example of one. There's a shop near my house called B&M Amusement that's been here going on 20 years, which is a great accomplishment. The owner, Buddy, is a real cool guy. He always has something funny to say to customers, no matter if they're regular or new. If you see something you like but don't have all the money for it, he'll let you give him like $5 and he'll hold it for you until you have the rest of the money. He's even given me advice on how to fix a leaky toilet in my basement and how to replace my garbage disposal. During this pandemic, he opens his store for like 5 hours and always wears a mask and gloves. And since he has no new books, he's selling back issues 50% off.
Huh.
Now, I've been to another shop before all this happened, and I couldn't find anyone to help me find a particular book. Everyone was in the back room playing a D&D game or something, and the young lady behind the counter acted like it was the last place she wanted to be. So, of course, I never went back. I happened to drive past it a few weeks ago, and it was shut down. So shops like B&M will survive this because they know how to treat customers, have a sense of community, and know how to adapt. Once again, keep up the good work, guys. Gotta talk.
Nice.
Did it?
Nice.
Is that it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We've been saying from the jump that shops are your third place. Like it's not just a retailer so much as just where you want to experience and geek out with people. So the places that are doing it right and want to will probably evolve to something. You know, like it's everybody online that's just going crazy about it's a death knell in the industry and see and look and they're all going in and good won't go broke and you're all screwed. They're stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's be honest, comics are one of the earliest retail sort of things that I know of that you could always have purchased by subscription, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't ever need to go to a comic store. We go there because the store there's a second half. We go there because the store is what we're getting, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't get the fun of going to JD's Stop by going to our mailbox. You know what I mean? It's like you go in and you chat and see what's new and talk with like-minded folks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what I try to provide here at the shop. I don't know that I'm always successful. Sometimes I'm human. I could be grumpy, but I do try to keep that in mind. I try to make the experience as pleasant and as lovely for everybody who walks in as possible, and hopefully make new friends while I'm at it. So,
yeah.
So thank you so much for writing us in. It means a lot that you're paying attention and that you're sharing your thoughts with us. Len, you said there's another email.
Yes, we have another email and actually technically two kind of emails, because just as Noel was noting that Carl Carls had messaged him, Carl Carls in our continuing war on Words with Friends.
Oh, it is him.
Yes.
Nice.
Wrote me a comment in regards to our most recent episode of Gutter Talk, where we remember Denny O'Neil, who had recently passed away. He also left a comment about Brown Fury. He said, unfortunately, the comic book Brown Fury is a one and done. It's very Australian. Who else would make a comic book about sentient poop? Hopefully one day we will get more. But as far as Gutter Talk, he says it was a great show as always. I was saddened by the loss of Denny O'Neil, and Gutter Talk was a fitting tribute to him. Excellent work. In response to meeting your heroes, my family and I went to Melbourne for Supernova, which is Australia's biggest pop culture expo. While my wife and son were excited to meet people from Doctor Who, Torchwood, and Smallville, which was cool, I will admit it, I was excited because I got to meet Mike Grell, Tom Taylor, Joyce Chin, and Art Adams. I had sent Art Adams a request for a sketch of Godzilla, as my son is a massive fan. He did not feel that he could do Godzilla justice in the short span of time that he had, so he brought a print of Godzilla all the way from America to Australia just for me. Dude is a legend and one hell of a nice guy.
Nice.
That's great.
It is great. And we got an email from the Home Dad Abroad.
Oh, wait, Len, can I respond real quick?
Please.
Speaking of Denny O'Neil, sad news. Did you guys see Joe Sinnott passed away?
Yes.
Yeah, original inker on the Fantastic Four, and one of the only inkers that I've ever heard of. I know you guys are more well-versed in that kind of thing, but yeah. So, I just wanted to give some recognition to Joe Sinnott.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. When you think about, we've often talked about how Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is the kind of like the style guide for DC in the 70s and 80s. Well, for Marvel in the 70s, probably late 60s and the 70s, it was Joe Buscema, and his work was inked by Joe Sinnott. Like Joe Sinnott was everybody's inker. He probably inked everybody, gave them a lushness, gave them a reality to their work. I mean, he brought really the reality to Jack Kirby's work, and Thor. His incredible work on Thor as well. He will be greatly missed. 93 years young, great man.
Wow.
Great man. We also heard, as I was mentioning, from the Home Dad Abroad, who in the subject line is optimistic spoilers from the gutters. JD and Len and the diminishing differences between cult pop podcasts.
Fair enough.
What a prescient email.
Right?
You have no idea, Carl.
You have no idea. First, allow me to say that I have been following you all in the traditional way as a podcast, the way the gods intended. Due to time differences, pandemics, and poor lifestyle choices, I am not one of those types that are free to schedule in the opportunity to watch other people chat on the phone. Oh, sure. By doing so, you're providing the chance to actively derail the show in real time, which is a compelling and tempting enticement in and of itself. However, diatribes of this caliber don't just spew forth at the drop of a hat. They require time and consideration for the soupcon of wordplay to simmer and coalesce into a layered concept greater than its ingredients.
It took me a second as well, and I was SoupCon. Oh, is that a saison?
Perhaps.
Is that how you pronounce
Susan.
it?
Susan.
Susan? Yeah, Susan. I
Oh,
was like, what's a SoupCon? Oh, I think I'm mispronouncing this.
It's when you order a soup, but they bring you like
Just-
meatloaf.
If it's language that's all but dead, it's in Home Dad Abroad's emails.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And let us not forget that in the fugue world state of the past several months, with each of us living in our personal jello mold of social distance, time has warped and stretched into a confused mass of quantum strings that refuse to react to even direct observation, thus preventing many of us from the simple act of setting an alarm reminder for engagement with other beings. That being said, fucking hell, douche! You brought douche back, you magnificent bastards! The Home Dad Abroad.
So for anyone who doesn't know, back before these suckers were on the show, I was doing this show with some other gentlemen from Ain't It Cool News, Mark_L_Miller and Rob Patey, aka Optimus Douche, and they got jaded on comic books and split town. So I got these new invigorated lovelies to talk about comics with me instead. So
I like
That's-
Invigorated
that's
Lovely. It's a good group name for us.
I like the configurated what?
The Invigorated Lovelies.
yeah.
It's like a really shitty punk band.
I could see that, or like a Clockwork Orange style gang.
Oh yeah.
Like, all right, then. What are you, Invigorated
Oh
Lovelies?
wow! Never do that again. That was crazy.
No, you can email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. Did anyone want to respond before we move on?
I mean, he's right. It's essentially you're watching us all have a conversation on the phone, and hey, content.
Yeah, and you'll never know what gesture JD made you if you cannot see.
True.
Yeah.
Quick,
I feel very
let's do something. Let's do something only visual. All right, edit it out. We're good. Oh, hey, I like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my buddy Jordan Crane designed some Black Lives Matter designs, and we had them printed up, and we are selling them for $15 each. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to Why Not Prosper, which helps women getting out of prison reacclimate.
I think I want one of those red Johns. I will let you know about what size.
Great. Let's move on to this week's books. Green Lantern, 80th anniversary, 100-page super spectacular #1 from, oh, there it is,
Ooh.
from DC Comics. 10 all-new tales featuring the Emerald Knights. Also featuring this cover, which looks like it was taken off the side of a heavy metal van in the 70s.
Yo, that's a van I want to be in.
I know. I would
Yeah.
totally rock this van.
That's pretty dope, man.
So, a quick breakdown. We have stories about Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, Sinestro, Green Arrow, Kyle Rayner, Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz, sort of Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and Kilowog. Just a real quick question before we move on to the actual issue. Who is your favorite Green Lantern?
John Stewart.
Okay. No.
I don't know.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, they're all Green Lanterns. You know what I mean?
What?
It's Hal.
Who's your
Only
favorite
because
person?
hold on. It's
They're all
Hal. It's Hal. It's Hal. It's Hal because those are my favorite stories. But if you took him out of those stories, he's pretty boring. So by default, it's Hal.
Brian.
I think if I had to pick one, I'd go with Hal. I often prefer the like kind of earliest one that I new kind of thing. You know, I know Alan Scott's obviously earlier, but
Like the Doctor.
yeah, well, actually, David Tennant is my favorite Doctor, and
The one you-
Chris Eccleston was
The one you are introduced to, or the one that you spend the most time with, or have the first memories of, is the one that's yours, right?
Often. Yeah. I really grew to like Kyle after the Power of Ion. I was so pissed at him originally. It was like, hey, who's this numbnuts? Where's Hal? You know. But I really grew to like him. But with GL, you know, you got all the crazy like other Green Lanterns that are out in space. They're always cool too. Kilowog, excellent choice.
Yeah, Max Mancini says my favorite GL is Kilowog, you poozers.
There you go.
And then Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight just said, can someone say hello to me?
I mean, we're doing a book that he suggested, so
there we go.
chillax, my friend.
Oh, did he suggest Swamp Thing?
No.
Very good.
No, Atomic Robo is going to probably be our next book club. Mine is, what's his nuts? The graphic designer kid, Kyle Rayner.
Kyle, yeah.
And I really enjoyed going back and revisiting him in this comic. This, you know what? This whole thing was great. This lends itself really well to a anthology series because there's so many Green Lanterns and there's so many Green Lanterns that I actually care about. That this was wonderful. I would like this once a year. Just give me sure, call it an anniversary issue, whatever you want to call it. Just give me an anthology series about each of the Green Lanterns and put some top tier talent on it. Brian, what's up?
How about 4 times a year, JD? Like a quarterly, like a Green Lantern Corps quarterly.
Too much.
No, wouldn't be special. Wouldn't be
Too many
special.
bucks.
Yeah, this was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a weak one for me. Every single one kind of touched on not only each lantern but each era of Green Lanterns.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, I was thinking like which one was my favorite, and I thought of like 3 that were my favorite, and the other ones were just like, oh well, that was really good in that one. Like these are just straight up great. Like
What were the 3 though? No, what were the
the Alan Scott one, the Hal Jordan one, and the Guy Gardner one. So the Alan Scott, the very first one, kind of the guilt of, I guess, Alan Scott's lover dying during his origin.
Yeah.
Because he's gay.
or bi?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's the 40s, so they don't explicitly say anything other than he's got a light in him
Yeah, I saw
that
some
society tries to put away.
Yeah, I saw some people online like, well, they hint at it. They don't hint at anything. This
No.
is 40s speak for he
He's
likes men. You
Yeah,
know,
he's,
like that.
he's going to his boyfriend's mother's house because he was inadvertently involved in his boyfriend dying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Is this hinting? They're sitting together in front of a fire.
The hint is as explicit as the first scenes of a porno that they might have sex. Like it's that explicit.
Look at this. They're hinting at it. Look at the silhouettes of these 2 men in front of a fire. That's
Or
I
even
thought there was
the-
a candlestick.
nice.
The other one that I really loved was Jeff Johns' Hal Jordan one with Ivan Reis, where Hal Jordan's ring is about to go out and he's stuck somewhere, so he has enough power for 3 messages. So it's this really, really quick distillation of the character. Who are the 3 people that he wants to talk to before he potentially dies? And then I really liked the Guy Gardner one, the 3 remaining lanterns celebrating Guy Gardner. I've only liked Guy Gardner in so much as everyone's response to him.
Yes.
He is a foil.
Yeah.
So highlighting him as a foil for a reason, absence is just perfect. It's a perfect way to show his worth. The rest of them were just really fun. You're showing the pinups. Some of these pinups have literally been the best pinups of these anniversary issues. The Raphael Grandpa, was it Kyle or was it Hal? Either way, the Raphael
Jordan.
There's a couple of Green Lanterns that I don't know of. So there was that YA novel Legacy.
Yep.
For that kid who now I kind of want to read that. They got Teen Lantern up in there. Joe is very represented, even though she doesn't have her own short story here. This was just spectacular. I loved reading this. I actually took my time and read it over the course of 4 days. because I was enjoying it so much. Like I just read a short story and then put it away. It wasn't a marathon. This was nice.
Len, what'd you think, bud?
Oh, okay.
Y'all are stupid. This was trash.
No, the Alan Scott story was great. Of course, you can't go wrong. I like James Tynion as a writer, so I appreciate it, and I love Gary Frank's artwork, so I appreciated that. And Alan Scott is probably my second favorite Green Lantern, so that was spot on. And I like the way of kind of retconning him as far as I know. I mean, maybe I've missed it, but they retconned him as being gay, which was something that was written into the New 52
Earth 2?
like Earth 2 books, you know. So I like them like, you know, kind of putting that in there, and retconned it in a way without overwriting his history. So I appreciated that. I like that story. I did like the story where they are sitting there, you know, years later and celebrating their lost friend Guy Gardner, and it giving reason to why Guy Gardner was so much of a jerk, because he was being a jerk to take his shots. That he wanted to take the shots, and I appreciated that. I like that. I like that story as well, and it was fun to see one of my favorite artists of all time, Mike Grell, return to the books where, outside of the Legion, I fell in love with his art on Green Lantern and Green Arrow, drawing that story again, right? So it was fun to see that, even though the art was kind of hit or miss. You know, Mike Grell's up there in age right now, and it kind of showed a little bit in his art. And his art was never the most, atomically, perfect work.
Anatomically?
Either. Anatomically, thank you. Everything short of that, and the Sinestro story was kind of interesting. I kind of like that one, but everything short of that, I just felt like, I just really didn't care. The Jeff Johns, Ivan Reis story, great art, but I think that it was BS that Hal Jordan on his deathbed is going to send a message to all of the Green Lantern Corps. Okay, that kind of made sense because it was saying goodbye, but also throwing a Hail Mary, like, if y'all can get here, bruh, come help a bruh.
A Hail Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. And then he sent it to Carol Ferris, whom they haven't come up with someone else for him to love in the book. So, okay, that's his lowest lane. All right, I'm with that. But if you want to tell me that Hal Jordan on his deathbed is not sending a message to either Oliver Queen or Barry Allen, and he's sending it to Batman, get the F out of here. I don't care how much he feels, and I was intimidated by you and your cape. Get the that's right. Our email is already cursed. Get the fuck out of here. That is bullshit. That is Jeff Johns being lazy and sticking something in his story that he knows everybody's going to glean to, and they're going to start writing whole articles just on those 2 freaking pages that he puts into this little 6-page story. That was bullshit for me. And
well, to be fair, I mean, this is like the 3rd time this has happened to him this month, and he's already done the messages to all the more important people. So now that this is happening to him yet again.
I mean, maybe he should send one message to the Corps and save that power for breathing. Would be another.
You think?
Yeah.
You think? You know what I mean? Or if you're going to send one message to the Corps, as basically a Hail Mary, then how about a Hail Mary full of grace to all of the Justice League? Because maybe they could get there too. It was bullshit. And then everything else in here was kind of just all right. I like the idea of my man John Stewart and you returning to kind of like quasi the days of the Justice League cartoon with him and Hawk Girl. But even then, the story was like, nah, it doesn't really do anything. And then all of a sudden, we're leaving on them walking out, and it says for Dwayne. How? I don't understand it. I was racking my brain. I read that story about 3 times trying to.
It was just his wife. His wife was the writer.
No, I understand that it was his wife. I understand that part of it was for Dwayne, but I didn't think that the story itself spoke that strongly enough about their relationship enough that I mean, yeah, it's cool in sentiment, but I think in execution, it just left me wanting a little bit more. And everything else to me was just meh in this book. I thought it was meh. I was like, nah, and needless. And I'm still waiting for my Lois Lane 80th anniversary.
God damn
I'm
it.
sorry. Done.
Well, I mean, you could just read the current series that's wrapping up now. In her 80th year, they've given her a 12-issue maxi.
Oh, what up?
Yes, I know, and I've read a couple of issues of it, and I'm waiting for the trade.
Spectacular.
I'm going to buy the trade. I buy trades, Noel, so I'm waiting for the trade.
I'm just
I will
saying.
support Lois Lane.
I'm
I
just
got
saying,
love for Lois.
you're-
I'm just saying they don't have love for Lois. She's been around in 80 years, and they gave a book to Catwoman and Joker, and they didn't give one to Cat. We've gotten 9 Batman books. Don't you? I'm still talking. I'm gonna keep on talking. I don't care who's on the screen. That's right, Brian. That's right, Brian. I love it. I love Brian, my Muppet. That's right, dog. Yeah, it's Lois Lane all day, dog. Lois Lane.
Oh, that was worth it. That was great.
Visual podcast.
St. Saucy Goodnight says Guy Gardner's vest is my favorite Green Lantern. Dude, I have always loved Guy Gardner's costume.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well,
I
you're a Ben Reilly Spider-Man costume anyway, so like I think that tracks. Yeah.
I'll tell you.
But his costume was the first one that I remember that was kind of like off the beaten path of everybody.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, I also love Sojourner's costume, too.
Yeah.
I don't know where she has a pinup in here somewhere. And I love her costume by, is it Jamal Igle? No, Jamal Campbell.
It's Jamal Campbell. Jamal Campbell.
Yeah, I wondered if they would do one of her because it's like, would that dilute the Far Sector book? You know what I mean? Like that's its own story. Can you just do like a quick story of her on the side? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're still like same with Teen Lantern. They're still in the middle of those characters' kind of introduction.
Right.
So I don't know. Like I was okay with them being represented, but not necessarily having their own story because they literally have no history yet. History.
Yeah.
XK Deathwish commented, "Eat the rich."
Defund the Green Lanterns.
Yeah. And then Max says, "Do you guys have a favorite core aside from the Green Lanterns? Like the blue or the? I like the Black Lanterns. I like me some. They're like the horror version of the Green Lanterns, and I'm a big horror fan. So, Blackest Night was one of my favorite Green Lantern storylines, and watching all of those beloved old characters come back to life and try to eat your heart was pretty great. I think those are a lot of fun.
I like the blue, green then blue. Because Saint
Walker.
Saint Walker, yeah, Saint Walker was awesome. The design was awesome, and he was awesome. And then also too during Blackest Night when the blue ring chose Barry Allen, I was just like, yes, it was awesome.
Well, I also really liked how rings needed each other. It's blue that needs green, right?
Yeah, well, they don't need each other. Certain rings feed off of each other's energies. So blue supercharges green. Yeah. And then like red does something with orange, and orange negates red.
One of the rings doesn't work without the other. Doesn't really work without the other lantern there. I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was blue didn't work without green, but there's something.
No, they both work.
I think
it was the whole
other thing. Right, like blue can create constructs maybe when green's around or something like that.
Yeah,
but he can't otherwise. I don't remember.
It's been a while since I've actually read a Green Lantern book that I care about. It was back during Jeff Johns' run, so I'm a little.
The other cores were awesome when they were first introduced. Sinestro Corps War blew me out of the water, and then I think we're all on the same page. It was kind of like, hey, maybe enough with the other cores.
Yeah, well, it was awesome from Sinestro Corps all the way to Blackest Night. It was literally the best thing I've ever read or was reading. It was spectacular, introducing all these corps, and it was the rainbow, and it's fantastic. Yeah. Then, like the third War of the Lanterns for the next 40 issues after Blackest Night, I was like, all right, like it was the War of the Corps, and then the other colors, and then this, and the Manhunters. It was just like, okay, you keep putting them in war, it's getting annoying.
I when I was reading Alan Scott, I thought some of this seems kind of old timey, like the dialogue, right? And I went back and I looked up Alan Scott's first appearance, and he is on a train with a guy named Jimmy. And when he beats those crooks, that is the actual dialogue from that thing, which I thought was really cool. And also the fact that he is from the 40s could be a really interesting story point if he's in the present now. It could be like, look, I'm attracted to men. I never really felt comfortable, like opening up even to myself about that. But now here I am in a new age.
Well,
and maybe I can now,
They did that in Justice League. So there was that point in Snyder's Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, where to get the totality that was in 3 different time periods, half of the league went to the past, the other half went to the future, and they dealt with the Justice League or Justice Society. And Jon Stewart was having conversations with Alan Scott, and Alan Scott made all kinds of allusions of the other not being welcomed, and Jon Stewart being kind of part of his heritage makes him feel more hopeful for the future, not having to hide in shadows, stuff like that. So like they were alluding to it all together, cool. Like the whole time.
Cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Could we talk for a second about the Denny O'Neil story? I loved it, as always. I love that sentiment, but I think it's once again particularly relevant. Where Hal notices that, hey, we leveled up to fight these really bad guys, and maybe we are punching a little too hard, and I needed to retreat. And he kind of sets it against Thoreau's Walden Pond. And, he goes off to another planet, absents himself for 2 months and 2 days. And, recenters, calms, and remembers what they're really trying to do is make the world better, not just beat up the guys that they see making the world worse,
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean, you could make that argument for any overly equipped or militarized force.
Sure, you could and should in many cases. Oh, and the things at the end. They got, I like every Green Lantern that I wanted to be there. I think there was one that wasn't. They had Von Daggle in the core files, who was from the Guy Gardner Green Lantern Corps story, which I thought was awesome. It was cool, like covert. Before there were other ring colors, they just tuned it to green. They were like, oh, we're going to give you this violet-powered thing that you swallow, and then nobody will know you're a Green Lantern kind of thing. The crystalline guy, they had, Mogo. Well, Mogo's an obvious one, but,
Yeah, for those who haven't read this yet, it does end with about 10 pages of profiles, Lantern profiles and first appearances, like an old school back matter, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Everything about this book is just, I loved.
Fuck them, because I don't see Gnort.
Oh, there is no Gnort.
Where's Gnort?
Badge is there.
Good point.
Sorry, Badge is there, but not Gnort.
Yeah.
He should be there. He should be there.
He should be there.
Neither is Tomar Ray, I don't think.
Well, yeah, he's not. There is a representative. There's
Yeah, but I mean, I don't care about what's her name from one issue of Grant Morrison's.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm guessing because Tomar Ray has not been around for a while. That was how I excused it.
I mean, neither have 90% of those weird things. Yeah.
No, I mean in continuity. I think he died, right?
Yeah, but still,
yeah. I mean, we're on the same page. I want Tomar Ray there too.
Action Figure Expert wants to know, how come there were never any Chill Lanterns or Brown Lanterns, maybe Silver?
Good question.
Where's the conflict in just being chill?
Yeah. Hey, maybe that would be nice though. Maybe they're around. You just don't read about them because they're not causing.
There was a whole X-Men event that the conflict was the fact that everything was perfect.
Yeah.
And it was the most boring goddamn thing to read.
What was it? Something
Age of X-Men.
Fuck, that was terrible. Anyway, let's move on. So Next up,
Buttons.
Empire.
Mm.
Avengers Empire. Number 0 by Al Ewing and Pepe Larraz. Tony Stark wakes from strange dreams as old allies make a distress call to the Avengers. In the new green area of the moon, the Kotati are waiting with news of a terrible enemy that could wipe out both them and humanity itself. The Celestial Messiah has returned, but are the Avengers ready to hear his message?
You seem pretty ready.
Yeah, pretty stoked about it.
Open ear.
There's some weird stuff going on here with Tony Stark. He does not seem in character, and I'm assuming that is on purpose. I'm assuming there's some sort of pollen that has infiltrated his suit and is making him more susceptible to worshiping this new character. Feels very strange, very weird. I wish Jimmy Chung did more interiors.
I would. Oh, you from looking at the cover, like, oh, yeah.
That being said, Pepe Larraz, when I saw that he was attached to this book, I got 50% more excited. He had done some of the stuff for House of X, Powers of 10, and he's one of my new favorite contemporary artists. The work here is awesome, very well done. The story is fine, but man, do I love the art.
Oh, it's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah. The stuff with Tony Stark is a bit in line with what's going on in the Avengers title. Like, he had come back from the future or from the far past. Either way, very different and weird, kind of existential. Like, what does it all mean and where's my part in it? So this kind of, like, if he is being influenced, it still kind of tracks.
So wait, I'm sorry. How does this tie into Iron Man 2020?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Avengers. I don't know how it ties into 2020.
Because it doesn't seem to be related at all to what's happening to Iron Man in his book.
Oh no, it lines with Avengers, not
okay.
his book. His book, I have no idea. Dan Slott's doing his own thing.
Gotcha.
I vaguely remember in Avengers, one of the ones we reviewed, at the end of it, they find like a not fossilized, but a very old Iron Man helmet. Is that the journey? Because I think
so he goes into that cave where it's found, and he's shot back in time, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and he comes back, having not understood what he saw because it had to do with his father and Mephisto and all kinds of other weird shit. But he's in a very weird place.
He's pretty self-aware for modern Tony Stark. Yeah.
But as far as the rest of the story, this is real deep cut Avenger shit.
Yeah.
Like the Celestial Messiah, the Kotati. This is pre-Kree Skrull. Like all you really needed to know was like they've been mourning for 1,000 years. This goes to the origin of the Millennial War and all kinds of stuff, which I thought was kind of badass. I actually because it's shit that I didn't know before. I really don't know anything about the Kotati, and
Same.
So
I didn't know they were like. I looked it up. They're from like Avengers 131 or something. It's
This is like if this whole event is predicated on like real deep cut stuff, then I actually find it a little bit more interesting. Yeah, because it's not the same conflict from before. It's literally like a really old one, which is cool.
Also, it touches on stuff that's deep cut for me, but probably not for Len, right? Like it's got
Swordsman.
What's his name?
Swordsman.
Yeah, I have no idea who that guy is, except that he trained Hawkeye and eventually went. I guess I thought he was a bad guy.
Yeah. It actually like that's him training Hawkeye. It's fairly like a recent retcon. Like when he was around, he wasn't really trained. He was just the swordsman, And his biggest claim to fame was that he went off and married Mantis, which they allude to here in the story, and. That was really it. And then I think he died and he came back from the dead a couple of times to like help them as kind of like this Deus Ex Machina in a couple of stories. But I think this was probably the best use of him that I have seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And to Noel's credit, it's deep cut deep cut Avengers, but I like that they give you enough of the backstory so that you can catch up on the character without doing a whole big, info dump, so then it takes up too much of the book. They quickly get right back to the action. and it's perfectly laid out. I mean, I can't say enough about how well the art complements the story.
Yeah, this is a perfect Zero issue.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
It gives you all the backstory you need, sets up like it teases at what the conflict will be, but then also sets up like the immediate conflict, which is potentially, the Kree are coming to wipe this all out. And is that the Fantastic Four jet with it? So like you got these, instead of it just being kind of a fabricated conflict between heroes, it's literally they've aligned themselves with different factions, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
The only thing that it was disappointing to me about this is you just hit it. It's a Zero issue, which means that it's leading into an event, which means that now you've got to follow the event book, which means that maybe some of this will be seated in the Avengers, the comic, maybe not.
No.
I don't know what's going to happen. That's the only downside for me.
Well, this is also the third lead-in issue.
Yeah.
Are you fucking?
Yeah.
Listen, there was Incoming back in December. Then there was the Road to Empire, Kree Skrull War. And now there is Avengers Empire Zero. And then next up is Fantastic Four Empire Zero. And then will be Empire #1.
You're missing some.
Oh, shit.
Because Incoming was a continuation. Incoming was a bit of a continuation of Marvel 1000 and 1001 because they seeded all that stuff. Marvel 1000, Marvel 1001, Incoming, the Road to Empire, Avengers Empire Zero, and eventually Fantastic Four Empire Zero. Now, the good thing is, though, that they canceled about 25 tie-ins.
Oh, that is.
The checklist used to be like 52 issues or something like that, or 50 something random issues. They got rid of almost half of them, and it's not going to be in Avengers proper. There's going to be like a separate Avengers series, but it is going to be in Fantastic Four proper. I think like 2 issues of Fantastic Four. But I am only planning on reading the spine, the main series.
Yeah,
I'm not feeling 42 issues of an event right now.
Yeah, we reviewed, I think, the most previous one, and I was like stoked. I'm like, all right, great. And then I started reading this. I didn't look at the number on the cover. And then when I got to the end, I was like, well, where's Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's get it going already,
Now, that all said, I like the book.
Yeah.
Book. I didn't expect to like the book. I don't really care about Marvel Cosmic. I don't care about the Kree. I don't care about the Skrulls, and I certainly don't care about the
Kotati.
The Kotati. I don't care about those guys. But I still enjoyed this book, and I wonder how much of that is actually because of Pepe Larraz's artwork. Every page is like a pleasure to look at, and that definitely hiked up my excitement levels a little bit. But I mean, I can complain that we haven't gotten to Empire yet, but I've actively enjoyed every part of it leading up to Empire so far. So
I also really enjoyed ideas in this. Like, I had no idea that it was canon, that the Skrull were this like great technologically advanced pacifist race, and the Kotati are cool. But that was actually from Avengers 131. Like, it's a really cool idea, and I loved being exposed to it. But it's not a knock on this book. I just thought it was like of interest.
Hey, Brian, could you ask Alfred Pennyworth to turn up the lights in the Batcave, please?
Well, so here's the thing, JD. I just realized that I have a skylight, and I have little to no control over the sun or the clouds. And but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go. If that happens again, I'll go try to turn on another light. I doubt it will have any. I'll be able to turn it on. I have full confidence, but I don't know if it'll help. But JD, I have a question for you. I heard there's a website called Patreon.
Oh my God!
Know anything about that? Do you have any sort of experience with that website?
I do. Thank you so much for this. You're so good at this. I love that. I always forget to mention it, and you're there to hold my hand. So if you guys want to help out the show, the reason we have this here is because of the Patreon patrons who have been helping out. I was able to buy an arm to hold the iPhone so that you could see the book we're talking about. Also, I have a microphone, which is kind of cool, so you can hear my stupid voice. So if you want to go and help out the show, you can go to patreon.com/Johnny Destructo. I also post all of my artwork there and sketches and Thunder Rounds that I do on YouTube.
Thunder Round.
So might I suggest when this is all said and done and available on YouTube, we put all the links down there below.
Yes, I should remember to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, including all of our social media links and stuff.
Also, Phil, the next goal for Patreon is to get Brian a lamp. So if you want to get Brian a lamp, just go to patreon.com/Johnny Destructo.
Just like a $10 John like this that just kind of look at, dude.
Literally, the next thing we're buying with Patreon money is probably a lamp for Len and for Brian.
Oh, my lamp is already set up. The bat base is probably about a good 3 weeks from being ready to rock and roll, and it's going to be a whole nother fucking experience. Don't worry about me, dog. I'm good. I'm good, bro.
Dead Body Road, Bad Blood, #1 from Image Comics by Justin Jordan and Benjamin Tiesma? Diamond has this to say: Bree Hale has left a lot behind in her life. Crime, the military, but she can't leave behind her own family. And when the local crime boss puts a hit out on her brother, there's nothing she won't do to save him. Absolutely nothing. So this is Justin Jordan, friend of the show, Justin Jordan. He had done Dead Body Road, the original series, and this is a sequel series called Bad Blood, Chapter 1. And this is a crime story. So if you're into down and dirty, gritty crime dramas, this is right up your alley. The art looks lovely. Very reminiscent of the guys whose name I always mess up, Lionel Yu. Lionel Francis Yu. It's very much in league with that. What did you guys think of it, Len?
I enjoyed it for the most part. I mean, there was some. I mean, it's a crime book, and it definitely, it's like backwoods crime. So I'm like, all right, I'm with it. It's got a little bit of it reminded me a little bit of my first introduction to Jason Aaron, which was Scout. Reminded me of that a little bit. And that's a book that I enjoyed from beginning to end. Even though it's a little problematic nowadays. But this book, it was fun. It was fun. It was cool. The art was great. It was interesting. I didn't dislike the book, but I didn't fall in love with it as much as I wanted to. I really wanted to be invited into this world, and I felt that the art invited me there. But overall, I don't think that the characters proved to be that interesting enough to make me want to say, you know what, I want to return for the next part of this story. But as a whole, because it's all set up, like this chick, and she's badass, and she's a bartender, and her brothers got messed up with some dudes, and he may have it's all over the place. Some of the characters look similar enough to one another that I'm not sure who we are supposed to be with at different times. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me, really. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. No.
This is one of my favorite things that I've read of Justin Jordan's. Mm-hmm. This was great. I loved it. I actually asked you to order the first series for me because I've never read it.
Yes.
This is awesome. I've not had I don't know. I've never really enjoyed some of his work as much as this. I liked the setup. The art was spectacular. It did feel like a grindhouse version of Criminal, which is a super sweet spot for me. I have no complaints. I straight up love this. Yeah.
And I really by the way, Christopher St. Saucy poked his head in to say he's the one who asked us to review this. Hey, look at that. It's Dead Body Road, Bad Blood.
There we go. Shout out.
You're welcome. Relax.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Brian, what did you think, buddy?
I'll tell you what, JD, it's my fault. I didn't realize we were reading this book. So I didn't read it, and I probably would be more on Len's side, given my general tastes.
True.
But, the art looks really cool as you scroll through. So
all right.
Yeah.
My favorite bit in here is, so we've got this badass bartender who used to be a criminal, and now she has left that life behind, and of course her brother has gotten into some shenanigans, and the crime bosses are looking for the brother, and
They've obviously pulled up outside of your store there, JD.
yeah, right, he's coming to get me.
Crime bosses.
So what was I saying? So of course they send this guy, right? This guy we've seen a ton of times, who shows up, he knocks her unconscious, she wakes up, she's tied to a chair, and he's like, I have to get answers from you, but I sure do hope that you resist and don't give me the answers, because I really like to use pliers on people. Oh, aren't I devious? Mwah, 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 mwah. And then she kicks the fucking shit out of him real quick, and that's what I liked about it. I was like, oh, cool. He does all this posturing, which we've seen time and time again. And usually you go, oh no, this guy's really up to no good. He's really going to try and get the information out of him and put the hurt on the person. And then she's like, nah, dog, you're done. And so I thought that was a nice little turnaround.
Yeah, for a first issue, it was an excellent level set, especially that conflict you're talking about. She just makes short work of him. So the escalation in issue 1, I'm really excited to where it goes. This is really cool.
For sure.
To Christopher St. Saucy, he left us a comment. Do you read the back of the book where it says that Justin Jordan is a big fan of Justified? And I did read that, and I was a fan of Justified. Quick plug, the theme song to that show, Justified, was produced and performed by Gangsta Grass, who is a bluegrass hip-hop band that one of the Tribbles, Super Tribble, Randy, is a proud member of. So yeah, we're big fans of Justified.
Oh, I had no idea. That is awesome.
Yeah. Our son, the voice of reason.
Very cool.
So we're big fans of Justified and Tribble Nation, and I definitely could see his influence, that influence in this story. And like I said, I just wanted to love it more. I think because I am a fan of crime books, when I lock onto one, I'm looking for something that presents itself maybe as at least trying to be like a little different, like the Criminal series I think is different. I think back to Stray Bullets, I thought had a different vibe on it, you know what I mean? And this one, because I feel that Justified influence there, it doesn't feel 100 wholly original. I think that really the last original great crime story that I read was the one that JD just had us read. 4 kids. What is it? 4 kids.
4 kids walk into a bank.
Walk into a bank, which I loved. I absolutely loved that book. And it was original take on a crime story. This one, I just feel that I've been here before.
I did a Thunder Round earlier this week, and we're not going to talk about it, but it came out this week. You might actually like that Texas Blood, which I might check that out. Yeah.
It's very
the protagonist is a 70-year-old sheriff. It's a very different. It's similar but different at the same time. It was really good.
Len, you liked the Banks, didn't you? Did you finish that, right?
I do like
iffy on that.
I'm iffy on Banks because I think that the story is good. I don't think the art sells it right. Yeah, that's the most disappointing thing. That the art doesn't sell. Better art, and that's a home run.
Can I derail this for 2 seconds? This past week, I a TKO touch point. This past week, I finally read Pound for Pound, and it's awesome. I know JD had read the complete Pound for Pound. It's it's so weird and great. It feels like a Tarantino kind of fever dream. Yeah, it was really cool. It was totally worth reading, and I blew through it. It was like a one sitting book. Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I got that. All my TKO books are saved. I'm going away in August, and that's the books I'm taking.
I'm going away in 2 weeks, and I'm slowly whittling the 10 trades that I'm going to take with me. It just keeps changing. But I'm sure a TKO book is going to be in there. I need to finally read Sentient. It got nominated for an Eisner. So
I went to go grab a copy of it, and I realized I'm sold out. But luckily, I ordered more from TKO. So, did my phone just die?
I believe so. It just blinked out there.
Anywho, Marvel. Oh no, I'm getting a phone call. That's what it is. Call declined. Get out of here, you jerks. Marvel Snapshots, Captain America, by Mark Russell and Ramon Perez. Acclaimed writer Mark Russell, I just said that, and superstar artist Steve Rude. What?
Oh yeah, my bad.
Take us. Okay. So, and superstar artist Ramon Perez take us to Kirby Town for a literally explosive story of the madness-inducing Mad Bomb and its aftermath as the Marvel Snapshot tour through Marvel history continues. A gifted South Bronx teenager sees his neighborhood destroyed in the initial Mad Bomb attack and his future up in smoke with it. What does he do when AIM recruits come calling? Does he stand by a system that's failed him or find a future outside the law? Featuring Captain America, the Falcon, Iron Man, and more. This was so good. I really enjoyed this. I have read zero zilch of the other Marvel's Snapshots. I have not bothered to care about them. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I should go back and check those out, because while I had no interest in this one, Noel was like, you guys should read this. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and honestly, I had no interest in reading Marvel Snapshots either. It feels like a silly ploy. But I really enjoy Mark Russell's work. So I will try things based on his name. And this paid off. This was it wasn't an enjoyable read, but it was a really interesting read, and I liked it a lot. And it was even more interesting when I, was thinking about publishing, and this was supposed to come out in April, meaning that it was written back probably at the latest in March. And that it seems so kind of prescient in how youth is radicalized by hate, is really, really prescient. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it felt, I was wondering, I was like, is it possible that they just wrote this and drew it in like the last week? But no, I mean, that's not true. No, they didn't. Len, did you have any feelings?
Yeah, he's got feelings.
Why are you coming to me, man? Why don't you go to Brian?
Because he's next to you in the. Hey, Brian, did you have any feelings?
I did. I'll got to be honest with you guys. I had a bit of a different take on what we were doing. I thought we were just doing GL and Empire and Swamp Thing, and maybe we'd do some Thunder Round. So I didn't get to that. And then this morning, I've read, at this point, you may have seen me looking down just now. I'm at page 22, and it's great. It's awesome. It's incisive commentary thus far. It feels very kind of classic Marvel Silver Age, which you guys know I love. And it's philosophically thoughtful. Now I haven't gotten to the end of it. Hopefully it does well. But
what do you think of the ending, Len?
Yeah, Len. Hey, Len, specifically Len. Why are you asking my opinions on this opinion podcast?
I was trying to keep it light. Yeah, this look, okay. It's an interesting story, and it's cool, and it's great to see AIM, eternal jerks of the Marvel universe, recruiting this young black kid, into their organization, and the way that they do it by recognizing his gifts is very, like Noel said, it's very prescient. The whole thing is, and this outsider view into the Marvel Silver Age is very very Kurt Busiek, who, while he didn't write this, he is the curator of this line, and his imprint is all over this, because this book reads of his Astro City, which most of the best Astro City stories are looking at snapshots of superheroes, be they in the future, be they in the Silver Age, be they in the Golden Age or whatever, but from a different point of view, whether it be an outsider's point of view or the superhero's point of view, but from afar. That is the best of Astro City, and this reads like an Astro City story, a la via the Marvel Universe, which in whole is not bad, but to me just didn't stick it because I'm a huge fan of Astro City and I've read everything Astro City. This just feels like warmed over Astro City to me. I like it because it's a black kid. I'll rock and roll for this. It's very misleading that it's Captain America because he's maybe on 2 pages of the freaking book, and maybe he has 3 lines the whole fucking time. You want to talk about Iron Man not sounding in character? I don't know who the fuck is behind the armor in this one. It certainly don't sound like Tony Stark. It features Iron Man, the Falcon, and Captain America, and more. The more must be the shadows of other Avengers because I don't see any other Avengers in this book. So it's just very misleading. And again, another book that left me meh for the most part. The writing of it is good. The art of it is evocative and good. I like both Mark Russell and Ramon Perez. I like that together, but what it put together to me was I'm just going to go and reread an Astro City story and have a better time. Sorry.
See, and that's why I asked you, Len, because you had already said this in the chat about Astro City, and I did want to talk about Astro City a little bit. While I really like the writing of Astro City, the artwork in that book has never really spoken to me. It's always more work for me than it should be to enjoy an Astro City story, just looking at the pages. But the writing I've always really liked. And there's something about those pastiches that I don't really, I don't have the history with those characters like I do the Marvel Universe. And so my thoughts of Astro City were, oh, this is great. I kind of wish it took place in a pre-established universe like Marvel or DC. And so we're getting that here. And maybe that's why I'm enjoying it so much, because it's like, oh, it's just like Astro City. And it's saying something important like Astro City always tries to do, but it's within the actual confines of the Marvel Universe, which I feel more at home in and more comfortable with. And also, I think it's important for the Marvel Universe and for the DC Universe to tell these types of stories and delve into these types of things because they reach a wider audience than maybe Astro City does. Follow-up question. Does Astro City still exist? I haven't seen an issue of Astro City in a long time.
It does still exist. He stopped putting the book out in single issues and now puts them out in just one big collection because it was taking so long. And he has changed over his original artist. Well, famously, Alex Ross is the costume designer of all of Astro City and does all of the covers. So that's his partner on there. But for most of its run, Brent Anderson was doing the artwork. And Brent Anderson, who, to be fair, in the most probably over the last 10 years, and he's not a young guy, and his age has been showing in his artwork. So I think that Busiek has been trying different artists, and I think he's kind of like in search for an artist who can actually take on the story. The last couple of arcs have actually been under the pen of different artists.
Dale Eaglesham. They always seem kind of similar, right? Brent Anderson.
But Eaglesham draws the same guy, man.
Yeah, that is true.
If you want the book to come out, you probably shouldn't go with Dale Eaglesham.
No, I'll tell you who he should get. If he really wants to get somebody, he should get oh God, I'm just drawing a blank on his name. I just drew a blank. He drew Justice underneath Alex Ross. Alex Ross gets all the praise for it.
Kruger? No.
Doug Braithwaite. Doug Braithwaite. That's who he should get to draw Astro City.
The guy who did the seminal Universe X?
Yes.
You guys mentioned it sucks that, or Len mentioned it kind of sucks that Captain America is not even really in this book. To me, for the first 20 pages or so, he's actually the antagonist of the book. So from the perspective of this kid in South Bronx, where the rest of New York is being cleaned up and taken care of. And on TV, you've got Captain America helping everyone else but them, and then pretty much declaring mission accomplished.
Yeah.
He is the antagonist. That you like it. It's this perfect storm of how an incredibly smart, capable, and rational human being can be radicalized with opportunity by somebody like AIM.
Well,
that's the part of the story that I loved.
Yeah, I also think it speaks a little bit to, personally my own naivete, and I think a lot of white people's naivete when Obama was elected, and everyone went, well, not everyone, a bunch of people went, racism is solved, guys. We did it. We elected a black president. The nation stands. Mission accomplished. And so I think I wonder if that's a little bit of like white liberalism being like, hey guys, look, this, we're fixing it, and then be like, well, you got the people who are actually being affected by it going, did we though? Did we? So I think this book has a lot to say, and I really enjoyed it.
And I think that those are good lessons. I just wish that was in the Captain America book itself. Not saying that it's probably not in there, no, because I'm not reading Captain America, and I know you are. And you're about to tell me that it's actually in there, Len. It's there. You need to be picking it up. I've been telling you while you're not listening to me. So
get it in there. I can't wait for you to read it. I can't wait for you to get caught up, because Ta-Nehisi Coates is just killing it in the Captain America book. Not only is he attacking racism and systemic issues, but also the incel power of assholes and toxicity, which is awesome.
So we had some Thunder rounds planned, but I'm going to go ahead and skip those. If you want to see these Thunder rounds that we're about to do, we're going to try and put them up on the YouTube page. So as their own little segments, maybe Noel and I could do those, because I think with you. Oh, and Brian, did you want to do a Thunder round?
I would love to do a Thunder round. Thunder round.
But I have to open up my store in 15 minutes. So we're going to jump ahead to the book club. So while everything was COVIDing, we decided to do a book club every week instead of the regular Spoiler Alert podcast. And we kind of enjoyed doing it so much that we decided the last Sunday of every month, as well as some of this week's books, we would also talk about a predetermined book club. And I have always been wanting to read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing from DC Comics, Saga of the Swamp Thing Book 1, which has issues 20 to 27 of Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, Steve Bissette, and John Totleben. I have never read this. I grew up a big fan of John Constantine, and I always knew that Constantine got his origin, or at least first appearance, in Swamp Thing. That doesn't happen here, sadly. But this is basically a horror book that takes place in the swamp. And I've been thoroughly enjoying the Swamp Thing DC show, and I'm very sad that it has been canceled. So, yeah. Noel, hold up what you got.
Hold up what you got, Noel.
Is that that's the Absolute Edition?
Yeah.
Is that the fuzzy one?
Yep.
Ooh.
It's mossy, like Mossman from the He-Man action figures.
They did a Swamp Thing. It was like an SDCC exclusive that I was like, oh, I want to get that, but it's like $50, so I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, so I picked this up last year and read this around Christmas time. So, and then this is what the first like 2 books. So I actually put my marker in where you guys stopped reading.
Is Constantine book 2?
No.
God damn it. God. So, Len, I'm going to throw it to you. Don't ask me why. Did you read this as it was coming out?
No, because I'm not a horror guy. I knew about Swamp Thing, and he'd shown up in a few like of the books that I was reading around the time of his that he was coming out, so I knew of him, but I didn't follow it. But I heard amazing things about what was happening in this book, and me myself following the business enough to know that Swamp Thing was a fair to middling as far as sales wise. To hear all of a sudden everybody's talking about Swamp Thing, I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's great. It just didn't speak to me. So I actually welcomed the opportunity to read this, because this was my first time checking it out as well.
And what was your response to it this time?
outside of feeling that Alan Moore, I don't think has a firm grasp on the American patois, uh, as it were. For the most part, and that this is very early Steve Bissett and John Totleben art, so it definitely has a beginner's feeling of these two artists who are definitely artists in nowadays. I actually, for the most part, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought the horror of it was more psychological, more meditative. There was maybe some body horror there that didn't skeeve me out too bad or anything like that. Um, I love being introduced into the world of Alex Holland. It actually made it makes sense that no, he wasn't a guy who fell into a swamp and then became part of the swamp. No, he actually died. He actually died and decomposed into the swamp, and then bringing like the whole biological science into it about worms eating worms and learning their intelligence, and that being how he more or less this plant took on the idea of Alex Holland.
Already, Len, going just from general comics knowledge about like his whole I'm not Alec.
I knew that somewhere along the line they said he was no longer Alex Holland and he was in fact the Green, but I never knew the explanation of it. So, and reading that, I was there, man. It was it floored me.
I knew of, like you would hear the saying of like, he's not a man turned into a plant, he's a plant who thinks he's a man, kind of a thing.
Right.
But it being explicitly kind of planned out and shown that like even the way that he's constituted himself, lungs that don't work and organs that are hollow, but really edible. But edible, which there's after reading this, I actually read some other other things, including Mark Russell's Digital First. There's actually a piece in there where he gets like Swamp Thing becomes so frustrated with society and pollution and all kinds of stuff. He finds a way to, every time he gets super angry or like massive amounts of hate, it kind of, he rips it coalesces in one piece of his body in his heart.
He takes it out.
He rips it out every once in a while and just kind of like, so almost to like refresh his reboot himself. Like, I can't hold this hate anymore. I'm going to take it out. And then like in the course of the story, someone finds it and eats it to try and get his power. But still, like things that happened in here are still being riffed on 30, 40 years later. This reminded me of Alan Moore. So I forget, having just read his more recent things and the very, very British things or the super high level things, I forget how pure of a storyteller he could be.
Yeah.
And this was like a nice reminder of like, oh, that's why he's great. I feel like I haven't had that in about a decade.
Yeah.
A nice reminder.
And how brave he is. Think about it. Probably, if I remember correctly, maybe the third or fourth issue on this book. And mind you, this is his major introduction to the American comic book scene. He's a name overseas, but this is really his introduction here. And on his third or fourth book, the lead character is not even in the book for the most part. He basically is the land that we're walking on. You know what I mean? Like to have the bravery to do that, I thought was like okay, bruh. I see you taking chances. You're right. It's just a reminder of what all the hype was about this brother.
So we had kind of talked about it in the chat a little bit, but the first issue is literally just like I'm gonna wrap up tons of shit because I don't care about this story. Like it's literally called Loose Ends, and it's a one story, it's a one issue kind of like, this is what happened, this is this, let's resolve this, and then let's murder our main character. And then it ends. and then his actual story begins of the nature of Swamp Thing and Alec Holland. Is he a man or is he an idea? And
Yeah.
honestly, and then there's I think it's an arc about a kid in a home, right? Like the monster that feeds off fear and he eats it, and Etrigan's there and stuff. But a lot of the things that showed up, and if you guys continue to read this, which I would highly suggest that you do, a lot of the things that are introduced in that first and second issue still get played into in the second half of this, like the second book, including some stuff with Arcane and his family, including like real deep body horror stuff. And then also too, like what happens if you do eat a piece of Swamp Thing? Like it's bug nuts weird, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it felt like I did something good when I finished reading it. Like I'm glad I checked that piece of literature off my list.
Are you talking about Saga of or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. When I left, you were talking about Mark Russell. So, sorry, I had to go help a customer.
Brian, what did you think? We didn't really hear from B.
Thank you.
So I was in kind of the same boat as some of you guys I bought my copies at a convention years ago because I was like, oh, I got to read this. Didn't read them, so they've been sitting there. So I was real happy that we selected it this week or for this one. And I did already know about the big twist. And I feel like I would rather not have known, because it's such a cool idea. And I don't remember how I found out about it. I don't remember ever being really surprised by it. You know what I mean? But I absolutely love that when he finds this out, he is happy, right?
Yeah.
It brings him peace, not the way more common, oh, I'm not a human. What am I going to do? Whatever, it's like, I am what I am. He
has to like meditate on it for a while.
Yeah.
And also too, there, like, if you at all are wondering what happened to the rest of Alec Holland's body, that's also touched on in the second half of this book. There are so many wonderful things that are seeded in the first like 7 issues of this. Keep going. This is just super good.
Interesting note, by the way, the original trade paperbacks for this didn't have the very first issue of Alan Moore's run because the first issue was him wrapping up the previous storyline, and it was him just coming in and finishing it up before he actually got started on the next storyline. But now that DC has done these reprints, books 1 through whatever 5, 4 or 6, I forget. They've included the previously left out first issue.
So that threw me for a loop because I was like, oh, I'm going to read this. And I thought, well, I better just make sure I'm reading the same thing as all the other guys, So then I went into the digital one and it's a different first issue. And I'm like, what's going on here? I think I prefer having read the issue 21 first. I think I like having that first issue being just like a wrap up.
Yeah.
Very familiar with how comics work. And it's like, all right, here, it sets the stage. And then
and it ends with him literally getting shot in the head.
Yeah.
And it's an awful scene too. He's just like poof.
Yeah, but even like when I first read that, like knowing that it's besides the fact that I knew that it was the beginning of a whole new arc, at no point did I think, oh no, Swamp Thing got the Vegetable Man got shot.
No.
I hope he survives.
I found myself thinking the same thing, and also like, why doesn't he just travel through the green? I think it's some stuff that like when he got shot. Other than general, you're not going to kill your main character. So, I think they may have been more surprised than we were,
I read it as that murder, that death, that was the death of the idea of Alec Holland at that point.
Right.
Like it was literally just that version of him almost just being reborn into what he truly was. Like he was, it was no longer convincing himself. So it was almost just like if you believe you're dead, you're dead. Yeah. And it was being resurrected, revived, knowing that he is not the person.
Yeah.
And I think the trade actually, without having read it without that story, I would imagine that the trade, even though I feel like you said, JD, about oh my God, you don't really think he's going to die when he gets shot, but I think that the trade probably reads better by at least having one story where he still feels like he's Alex Holland wearing a Swamp Thing as
Yeah.
opposed to actually, because after that he really pretty much is just the Green, the Swamp Thing, you know. So I think it reads maybe at least better for you having a story of him as like the guy Swamp Thing as
Definitely.
opposed to what he really is.
I like how the whole thing with his humanity too, with that scene, the later part of his dream where he meets the planarian worms, which I have heard about elsewhere, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's
pretty
real,
sure
real
that's
stuff.
accurate. Yeah. Fascinating too.
The panel layout is freaking amazing, and Max just noted it, but I was gonna say there's controversy with controversy with this Absolute Edition because they recolored all of Bissette's art. So the whole reason why this book took forever is because if it was completely recolored, it was completely remastered for the Absolute Edition.
Wait a minute, what?
Find what page? Give me a page, and then I will find the.
Here, I'm on this one.
Can you tell me the number?
19, but it's 19 within the issue, so it's not the 19th page.
Yeah, but I could still kind of.
Is that it?
Gives me a reference.
Hang on a second. Yeah, this is. It doesn't look the same at all. Oh, because that's the 19th page of the one with the whole extra issue in the beginning. This is so confusing.
What issue is it?
Samuel David says, "Hello, everyone." Hi, Samuel.
Hey, Sam.
Action Figure Expert wants to know, is Vertigo even a thing anymore? Is it still around? The answer to that is sadly no. Anything that used to be a Vertigo book is now a Black Label book. So DC now does Black Label imprints as opposed to Vertigo. Are they the same? Kind of. Except I would say Black Label deals more with the main superheroes, whereas Vertigo was very much about the outer rim of the DC universe.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're the same at all myself.
Oh, but I mean, as far as like content.
Right.
Wow.
I gotta say, I kind of like the recoloring.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I have that, and I never opened it because that's my brain. I may have to open that up.
The recoloring is beautiful. Everybody freaked out about it, like the ultra purists who are just like, well, the discoloration in the yellow makes in the paper feel it's nostalgic. I'm like, yeah, but the preservation of art and the reproduction is great. So,
and I have to say, with regard to the art by Steve Bissette, I found myself many times wishing that someone else had drawn it. The same way I feel about the early Hellblazer issues by Jamie Delano back in the 80s. I have trouble with certain 80s comic book runs because there is a very specific sort of art style that does not speak to me. I do not like looking at it. I try to get around it in my own brain by saying, well, it's a horror book, so of course the art is designed to make it more uncomfortable, as to affect you more emotionally, right? But I think the coloring with this may be a very important element, taking a look at Knowles Absolute, because so much of the artwork is suggestive as opposed to explicitly drawn. There's a lot of things where, Steve Bissette does not actually draw an outline around a character, but everything is hatching. And so the background has a slightly different hatching than the foreground, or the person in the foreground. And the only way you can really determine which is which is the colorist went in and went, this is skin color, that back there is green.
Yeah, there's a for a lot of the in panel layouts and stuff, there's an ephemeral kind of feel to it.
Yeah,
like what you're showing there. Yes, the colorist has a lot more control of how it works or doesn't. I loved it. I loved how I read it. I don't know if I would have loved it back then because it is wildly different from comic book language, contemporary comic book language of the time.
Yeah, but I think it's very evocative. But go ahead, Len.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. That JD, I would say though, while I can see the coloring in the remastered coloring really selling that more, I think what you also, me reading this, remembering the time in which it came out, think that this is very evocative and it is different for the time, and it's trying to embrace what the colorist, the tools that the colorist has at its disposal at that time, and maximizing that its use. And it's the language is enough of traditional comics that I know what's going on, yet I can also appreciate that it's trying to do something different. My only fear is that because for its time, I do think that coloring is pretty good and trying to say something different. Is that the remaster is not the same colorist? Are we missing, a piece of their work? I think who's that? Is that Tatiana Woods that did the coloring on that book?
That's a great question, Len. It's almost like when they went back and digitally enhanced the Star Wars films.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Like-
yeah. I don't know. Like, they added things to the Star Wars films. They didn't just like recolor it and remaster it. They literally replaced things. They didn't replace anything here. Like, they didn't redraw things. They didn't add a scene or add panels to make it more modern.
Like nobody minded in Star Wars when they got rid of the blur underneath the hover car that Luke was in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this is the
thing on.
I guess I would just feel a certain kind of way if I was the person who colored this back in the day and worked really hard on it, and now to update it, y'all didn't change any of the inks or anything, but you deleted all of my colors and then got someone else to do it. Thanks.
Well, I think there's a practical issue too. Like, they have to blow this art up to a size that it wasn't before. Like, it probably needed to be recolored.
Well, I hear you on that, but like I said, I'm looking up. The artist was Tatiana Wood, I think, whose name I've always read as a woman. I don't know if it is or not.
That panel you showed before.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get
That's
me
what
wrong.
it looks like now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. But I think that in the original comic, the colorist does their. I mean, look, that's a wholly different feel.
And the gutters are black.
I gotta be honest. I might side with the purists on that one. That page right there is entirely different feel than what the original, because of their use on the gutters, man. I may have to side with the purists on that one, man.
And it's not. It's just that. It's
Wait,
just
let me
that
see the
scene.
gutters again.
Show them the page.
Ugh.
Oh, they went all black instead of all white.
Just for this. Hang on. Just for this sequence, the rest of the issue is white gutters.
Interesting.
That is even more of a choice, though. Like, they're changing something about it. I wonder why they did that.
So
because they had to put the outline on the A, because they had to color that A totally different. They had to put an outline on that.
The original series coloring is Tatiana Wood. The coloring for this edition is Steve Oliff and Ali Optics.
Steve Oliff from Spider Girl, the inker. I mean, I'm sorry, the artist.
Sure.
No, that's Pat Olive.
Oh, that's Pat Oliff. You're right. I'm sorry. Oh, I missed him. I wonder whatever happened to Pat.
Yeah, see, and I like Steve Oliff. I like what he does, and like I said, I can see that's some great stuff being there. But I think you're losing what Tatiana Woods did here. I think I might side with the purists on this one.
I mean, they credit both. She's not being erased. Her work's not being erased. They literally credit both.
Her name's not being erased. Her work is being erased.
Fair.
Yeah.
And there is a germ of her, like, she originated it, so the new colorist is following after it. But you don't see her actual work. JD, there was a page you were sitting on, which was the splash page for the one that Swamp Thing is mostly like communing with.
Yo, that is my favorite
good.
page. This one?
Yeah, Swamp Thing is not drawn there, but it looks like he's there.
Exactly.
So what they've done, they've taken his facial features, how he's got those like really defined brow, and his eyes are so far receded, and he's got that weird like goatee facial composition, and they filled it with rainwater in order to make his face. And this is my favorite. Like, there's a lot of really great splash pages in this. I was talking to my wife about it, and I said it seemed like the artist really saved all the detail for any time Swamp Thing had to be drawn, because all of the Swamp Thing close-ups are really disgusting and really organic looking, and very uncomfortable, but really well rendered. But yeah, I love this where you can see his face is created just because it's filled with water. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I was about to.
Yeah,
recolored.
Oh, now look at
Hold it up. So hold up. Oh, that's nice.
that is not, although a little more defined than the other one, which usually is good. But I think I kind of like it as like, because that's the theme of the issue, is that he is spreading out into, this kind of peaceful acceptance in the green kind of thing.
I don't know. I kind of like the high def.
All right. I mean, totally see it.
As far as the story is concerned, this is one of those things that I put off. And I knew eventually I was going to have to get to it, a la Sandman. It's one of those things that I maybe dabbled in back in the day, and I just couldn't bring myself to care, mostly because of the artwork. And also, I just kind of bristle at Alan Moore these days. His name is not something that makes me want to read something. Word of mouth works better than the name Alan Moore. There's plenty of things that I haven't read of his and will probably never read of his. There's just something about him that doesn't speak to me as either a creative or as a human. But this I thought was really well done. It's a really solid horror story. I'm definitely going to continue to read the rest of it. If this was coming out in issues, I wouldn't be reading it. The fact that it's all done and everyone tells me how great it is what keeps me moving. But yeah, if I was reading these sorts of books when I was a kid, I don't think I would have bought it in single issues. What did you guys think? Like, you're enjoying it, but would it keep you on a month-to-month basis?
Today?
Yeah.
Like as a reader today? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Reading the first issue, I would have been like, oh shit. And I would have kept reading.
For for a horror issue to issue, right?
Yeah, no, it's not a common thing. However, when I like one, it's all in. So like when one issue grabs me of the genre, then I'm down. So like Basket Full of Heads, when I finally read it, I was just like, I'm reading this whole thing.
Yeah.
Plunge, I'm super enjoying in single issues. But the more vaulted ones like Lola Woods and the Dollhouse Family, they're a little too wait for tradey. Like it's not very single issue for me, not very single issue friendly. It's more of a absorb it all now. But this is the breadcrumbs are so delicious that I would follow it monthly.
Oh, we didn't talk about the villains. The Floronic Man shows up, and I really liked his evolution. They really sort of leveled him up quite a bit. I don't know a lot about that character before this, but even just within the confines of this series, they take him from one level and they whoop right up to another level. And that the way they wrap it up and the way that they introduce the Justice League into this storyline is hilarious. I laughed out loud at the end where he's trying to convince the Justice League, I'm just a human who does human things. I broke my arm doing completely human things just like you would. Really, really fun comedic bit that I wasn't anticipating. And then we get Jason Blood, who is Etrigan the Demon. And that was a nice surprise. Although, I must confess, I'm not one for poetry. So I had a lot of trouble reading the Demon's cadence.
Well, Alan Moore does it like no one else. As in, he actually tries to write full poems, whereas most writers are just like, I just need to rhyme a couple of words.
Yeah.
So like this is like a 19th century poetry Etrigan, as opposed to a riddle poetry or riddle.
Yeah.
I was with you, JD, on I thought Alan Moore did it way better than some. I was reminded of Speed Demon from the Amalgamation Comics from a few weeks ago. But
never reminded
he
of
rhymed
that.
at the end. The rhyming was the whole thing. But anyway, the rhyming was pretty good. But I had a hard time doing the cadence of it.
I couldn't find the voice. I couldn't there's a lot of times you read the Demon and you're able to be like ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo.
Yeah.
Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. And you can sort of like find the cadence of it. And I was just like, wait, I had to reread some of his dialogue, and eventually I skimmed his dialogue.
Although I did like the big splash page when they're like, and the rhyme associated by demons driven.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I found myself also, he gets to a point where he's about to say necessary, but he gets interrupted. And I'm like, wait a second. Can he do that?
Is he allowed?
Yeah. Doesn't some magical force make him make him say the rest of the word?
In the same way that someone says out loud to me, okay, here's the situation. I do the entire GZ, Jazzy Jeff, and the Fresh Prince, Parents Just Don't Understand, from to completion in my head, if
Right.
not out loud.
Now, JD, here's the situation.
You know, when
My
people
parents were
say
away on a week's vacation.
when people say in West Philadelphia,
Born
Yo,
and raised.
born and raised.
the whole thing happens in my head because you'll be watching the news locally and it's just like, what's Philadelphia today? And I was just like, born and raised.
I was a little thrown by. So I see a guy with reddish hair and a white streak, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably Jason Blood." And then he's not acting very Jason Blood-like, and he says, "Oh, the devil checked in." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's not Jason Blood.
It must be the devil.
Be Jason Blood," which was odd. Yeah, must be the devil. That was what I was led to believe. Although I liked the bit at the end. I've never seen it with Etrigan before, where he's like, "We used to be very different and constantly at war, and we made a deal where we would become more similar to each other and be at peace."
Mm-hmm.
It was just an interesting idea. It doesn't work out so well for Jason.
I really liked Matt Cable in this. Cable, right?
Yeah.
Abby's husband.
Mm.
His whole thing was creepy as hell, and I loved it.
Mm.
He has some sort of seated ability to see or manifest little things, but then that's kind of hijacked by a monster demon voice in his head and dies, and the next arc after this is just awesome. But that one issue of like nasty husband and then a car accident and you don't really know anything about it, like the shots from inside of his mouth with the tooth, and it was all awesome.
Yeah.
I really liked this like slow burn in the background of like, oh, a villain's being born.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Action figure expert says, who is better, Swamp Thing or Man Thing? Discuss. Swamp Thing, because and then he says, smell you later. I see, because he's doing the Fresh Prince. Hey, home, smell you later. I don't know anything about Man Thing at all, other than he who knows fear burns at the touch of Man Thing.
Man Thing, the only thing that Man Thing has on Swampy Boy is he exists at the nexus of all realities. Like he's able to create portals for travel to and fro. Yeah.
He's Lockjaw.
And they were created.
Yeah. I think it's dimensions. It's not just like I want to go to the store. Like it's the nexus of all realities.
I think they were created by roommates too. Like the two people who created them were roommates at the time that they created them. Yeah.
Parallel thinking.
Wait, so what did Len? What did you think about the issue to issue question? We stopped midway, and you're the next one on my screen.
Oh, I wouldn't read it issue to issue. One, I'm not a horror guy. Two, I don't give a fuck about the Swamp Thing. But I could see if I was into Swamp Thing, I would enjoy this. I think I would definitely wait for the collected issue if I were going to buy it. I wouldn't. It's a little bit too. I kind of just want to get the whole story. You know what I mean? But I also am like JD. I think that there are times when the art, and mind you, I'm being forgiven because I know where Steve Bissette lands as an artist. But this is very early Steve Bissette, and some of his artwork is a little rough. You can tell where he's taking his time on some places, and sometimes he's up against a deadline.
Yeah.
So that keeps me out of it a little bit. The story is what maybe helps it all coalesce together. And to his credit, even though he's rushing, he's not forsaking the layouts or the attempts to do something different. So
I wonder if this is one of the early examples of layouts being played with. come to think of it.
I was wondering about that
Yeah.
too, because it very on you've got like the different motifs of like the like little like birds at the top of the
Mhm.
pages and the
Yeah.
bottles spilling into the
So-
panels.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned like where Steve Bissett lands, because even just in the back half of this absolute, the panel layout becomes redunculous, to the point where it starts to change aspect ratio,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next
Mhm.
couple scenes are landscape.
Well, J.H. Williams has said that
Like
Steve Bissett is a huge
insane.
influence on him, and you can see it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say, like J.H. Williams.
Yeah. It reminds me of that one Court of Owls story where you have to turn the page all around while Bruce Wayne is like losing his mind.
Yeah.
So that was,
I have the absolute to eventually reread that. I have no
Yeah.
idea how it's going to read like a giant. If anything, I'm just going to lay it down flat and start to walk around the table. That makes no sense.
I think I probably would. I am reminded of like early Vertigo. The art is really loose, but I have like a nostalgic feel for it. You know, not just Vertigo, but in general. I think I probably would pick it up if it was issue to issue. I'm not really a big horror guy, but sometimes with things like this that I don't see it as trying to scare me. It's just kind of dealing with those characters and themes and whatever. Then I am a big horror. You know, like Sandman is one of my favorite things. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'd pick it up issue to issue and see what was cracking.
Crack-a-lackin'.
Indeed.
I actually did read Swamp Thing monthly when they rebooted it for the New 52 with Scott Snyder. I read that and Animal Man by Jeff Lemire side by side, and I really enjoyed both of those.
Ooh, talking about panel layouts. Travel Foreman on the Animal Man beginning was like second to none, in my opinion. It was amazing.
He stuck around for a while, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, like the first big chunk of that
Yeah.
run is Travel Foreman.
Yeah. Now, do you guys know the sort of Swamp Thing Sandman connection? I won't say it if you don't. I'm just curious.
I do not know it.
Okay. Yeah. I know, JD, you've read a little of Sandman, and that's the only way I know it. Or maybe I read it on Wikipedia, so I didn't remember if they spell it out in Sandman or not. It's as far as I know, just kind of like a cool connection, not necessarily that important to either story.
Can you spoil it?
Yeah, I don't care.
You guys don't care?
No.
Because it might spoil something about Swamp Thing. I don't know, because I only know it from Sandman. You sure?
We're talking like 35, 40-year-old stories.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah,
All
we're
right. Len, I'll take you not screaming no as an assent.
good. I don't think he cares.
Matt Cable is Sandman's Raven. He must at some point not be in, this plane anymore. And I think it's kind of like a, hey, make up for things kind of thing. And he learns to be better. He's not a huge character arc or anything like that in Sandman, but he's his constant companion.
That's cool.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool.
Are they shared universes, or because I do know that Sandman eventually uses like Martian Manhunter and shit, but then they just kind of forget that happened and don't touch on it.
So yeah, here's the thing with Sandman is that when he was writing it, I think he has also said he didn't really know what he was getting into at first. So the first 7 issues or so, they said, hey, reboot Sandman, this Wesley Dodds character, make him a new guy, like the guy with the mask and everything. And he's like, okay, cool. So he sets it in the DC universe, and you can see that Morpheus, you can see little hints that it's going to be in the DC universe. He's like, these new kind of humans that have arisen since I've been away, I'll have to keep an eye on them. He doesn't. But it's always set within the DC universe, but more like the DC universe is set within it. That you get little what's that?
He showed up. He did keep an eye because he showed up in Dark Knight's Metal.
Oh,
the Endless.
But also cool. I haven't gotten to that yet. But he there's one little cool references that are, if you know what it is in DC, then you'll know it. Or a little joke where it's like they're all dreaming and Batman and Superman are like, hey, do you ever have a dream where you're in a TV show and Superman's like, yeah, I've had that dream, and Martian Manhunter's like, I never had a dream like that. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what he's doing, and then it totally changes, from all of that. But Constantine is in Sandman Volume 1, and they are technically in the same reality, and so Matt Cable, that's mostly where I know him from, as Matt the Raven.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not only was that not a spoiler, it was something to make me more interested in reading stuff.
Phenomenal. Yeah. And the art too. The artist on that has said he felt like Jimi Hendrix playing with the Beatles for the first one, Simon Dringenberg, I think. And once he leaves, the art takes off.
That was Sam Keith, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe it was. And then Simon Dringenberg is another.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm kicking and screaming towards Sandman. I don't know why.
Same.
I don't want to read it, but I know that I should or have to.
Issue 8. That's where it becomes Sandman.
No, that makes me hate it more.
I'm sorry.
Let me get through. I just I emotionally hate that argument where you have to skip things and or power through things in order to enjoy something.
I mean, it's not an argument. It's just how it is. Like, this is.
No, I'm sorry. That debate. When people are like, the second season is amazing, just power through. I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not telling you to power through. For whatever reason, the first volume wasn't available and I just read it. They know. There's a prose introduction that tells you what's what. Yep. Volume 2. And Volume 2 is Volume 1 in many ways, know? Yeah. But I hear you. And it's become so much more common nowadays,
Although I really enjoyed it in Volume 1, so he has been, I like the story of how the Endless, what's his name, Morpheus has been trapped for so long, and who he was trapped by, and then what happened to his different artifacts and how he goes to seek out those artifacts to regain his power. I think all that stuff's really fascinating. It took me 2 times of reading that first volume to give a shit, but now I'm glad that I give a shit. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I think for next month, didn't we decide, Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight had asked us to do a Atomic Robo storyline. So why not? Let's do that next. St. Saucy, remind us which volume that is that you want us to read of Atomic Robo, because I've forgotten. I've been your host, Johnny Destructo. You can go to patreon.com/Johnny Destructo and help us out. You can go to JD'sHeroComplex.shop and buy some of the trade paperbacks that I have here in my store, which is Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA. Len, where can the people find you?
Hey, you can find me any place and every place that you find the Black Tribbles podcast. So you can check me out on blacktribbles.com, on all social medias, the Black Tribble. We got a Patreon, Black Tribbles, Tribble Nation Facebook group, Black Tribbles, Black Tribbles, Black Tribbles, Black Tribbles, Black Tribbles. Holla at a Tribble, holla, 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 holla.
Brian.
I am on BrianLiebDesign.com, and who knows? Maybe I'll be one of the Brian Liebs that comes up if you do a Google search. Brian Lieb.
No.
You can find me on social media on Twitter at Mr. Bartocci, MrBartocci. Any of the podcast, the social media feeds for Cult Pop, and we'll put links in the video.
Yeah. And by the way, book club, we have every other week, and the alternating weeks we do movie club at my store, but it's on Zoom, really, so it's not at my store. This Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we're going to have a Zoom meetup to talk about Sorry to Bother You.
Great movie. That's a fantastic movie.
2018 by Boots Riley.
Thank you. So if you want information on that, hit me up, and I will send you the Zoom link, and you can hang out with book club people. There's 15 of us. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later. I'm going to go run my comic book store.